Everybody go!
Muslim patrols are again active in London.
The Muslim community will continue to patrol the streets and clear the streets of all the vices and illegal activities.
This group call themselves the Sharia Project. They make a point of differentiating themselves from the more hardline Muslim patrol, whose videos caused such anger recently, with scenes like this.
A leaked report by Swedish police says the number of so-called vulnerable zones in the country has jumped to 23. The areas, often described in Swedish media as no-go zones, have sprung up across the country, particularly in the largest cities. The report adds that a parallel social structure has emerged in those areas, with police facing difficulty carrying out their duties there. The leak partly blames Islamic extremism for the problem.
Nazi scum! Nazi!
Give in to the new order. But this is the end on the behalf of freedom and
of all creeds, of all races, of all colours, of all faiths, of all religions.
The number of terror attacks carried out by radical Islamists in Europe has doubled in the last year. That's according to a newly released report. Europol says the number of attacks reached 33 in 2017, way up on the 13 of the year before. The official death toll from the 2017 attacks was put at 62. Meanwhile, the latest opinion polls reveal EU citizens believe the main threats the continent face are immigration and terrorism, with nearly a third of those quizzed saying terror is now the most urgent issue. The head of one of the UK's main intelligence bodies, GCHQ, recognises the concerns.
The UK is home to more Islamist extremists than any other EU country. That is according to the bloc's counter-terror coordinator. He also warned that future terror attacks in Europe are inevitable. RT correspondent Anastasia Cherkina has been looking at why Britain tops the list.
Move back! Keep on moving!
Recurring terrorist attacks in Europe and the UK have become an unnerving fixture for Europe's major cities. As it turns out, Britain is at the top of the leaderboard when it comes to the number of extremists here. There are as many as 25,000 Islamist fanatics in Britain, more than any country in Europe. That's according to the EU's anti-terror chief. 3,000 are considered a direct threat by MI5, and 500 are under constant surveillance.
This is Molenbeek, the Brussels district that's become infamous for its links to at least 4 terror attacks in just the last few years alone. Most recently, of course, the attack in Paris, where it's believed 3 assailants spent at least some time living here. We've come to this district to find out why it seems to have such a problem with extremism.
Islam is in the news regularly due to terrorist attacks, but whenever we quote the Muslim sources that justify these attacks, people object and say, but there's violence in the Bible too. People who respond like this are obviously missing the point. Our criticism of the Quran isn't simply that it contains violence. Almost any history book will contain violence. A book about World War II, for instance, will contain lots of violence. The problem with the Quran is that it promotes ongoing violence. The final marching orders of the Quran are to fight those who do not believe in Allah. So do we find the same problem in Christianity? Are Christians commanded to violently subjugate unbelievers? Let's think about how Christians are told to live. In Mark 12, one of the scribes asks Jesus, "What is the greatest commandment?" Jesus answers, "The foremost is, 'Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these." So the heart of Christian morality, according to Jesus, is love. Love for God and love for others. We obey God because we love him. We care for others because we love them. In the Gospels, Jesus tells us that our lives are to be characterized by gentleness, mercy, and peace. In Matthew 5:5, Jesus says, "Blessed are the gentle, for they shall inherit the earth." In 5:7, he says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy." In 5:9, he says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God." Later in the same chapter, Jesus tells his followers to love even their enemies. He says to the crowd, "You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous." Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Love your enemies. This is very different from what we find in Islam. So, does the Bible promote ongoing violence the way the Quran does? Clearly not. The Bible promotes ongoing love, peace, mercy, and concern for others. Precisely the opposite of what we find in the Quran.
Can we have the camera? Can we have this camera focusing on all the audience here? Can we have this camera focusing on all the audience? Because every now and then, every time we have a conference, every time we invite a speaker, they always can come with the same accusations. This speaker supports death penalty for homosexuals. This speaker supports death penalty for this crime or that. He is homophobic. They subjugate women, etc., etc., etc. It's the same old stuff coming all the time. And we always try to tell them, I always try to tell them that, look, it's not that speaker that we're inviting who has these extreme radical views, as you say. These are general views that every Muslim actually has. Every Muslim believes in these things. Just because they're not telling you about it, or just because they're not out there in the media, doesn't mean they don't believe in them. So I will ask you, everyone in the room, how many of you are normal Muslims? You're not extremists, you're not radical, just normal Sunni Muslims. Please raise your hands. Everybody, mashallah, subhanallah. Okay, take down your hands again. How many of you agree that men and women should sit separate? Please raise your hands. Everyone agree. Everyone agree. Brothers and sisters. Subhanallah. So it's not just these radical sheikhs then. Allahu Akbar. Next question. How many of you agree that the punishments described in the Quran and the Sunnah, whether it is death, whether it is stoning for adultery, whatever it is, if it is from Allah and His Messenger, that is the best punishment ever possible for humankind, and that is what we should apply in the world. Who agrees with that? Allahu Akbar. Are you all radical extremists? Subhanallah. So all of you are saying that you are common Muslims, you all go to the different masajid Norway, or are you like a specific sect, like the Islam.Net sect or anything like that? Are you like that? No. Are you like that? Please raise your hand if you're like this extreme Islam.Net sect or anything like that. No one. Allahu Akbar. How many of you just go to these normal masajids in Norway, the normal Sunni mosques? Please raise your hands. Allahu Akbar. So what's the politicians gonna say now? What's the media gonna say now? That we're all extremists? We're all radicals? We need to deport all of us from this country? Subhanallah.
I am here to ask you a simple question. I know that we portray Islam and all Muslims as bad, but there's 1.8 billion Muslim followers of Islam. We have 8 million plus Muslim Americans in this country, and I don't see them represented here. But my question is, how can we fight an ideological war with weapons? How can we ever end this war? The jihadist ideology that you talk about, it's an ideology. How can you ever win this thing if you don't address it ideologically?
Great question. I am so glad you're here, and I am so glad you brought that up because it gives us an opportunity to answer. What I find so amazing is since the beginning of this panel, which we are here about Benghazi attack against our people, not one person mentioned Muslims. We are here against Islam, or we're launching war against Muslims. We are here to discuss how 4 Americans died and what our government is doing. We were not here to bash Muslims. You were the one who brought up the issue about most Muslims, not us. And since you brought it up, allow me to elaborate with my answer. There are 1.2 billion Muslims in the world today. Of course, not all of them are radicals. The majority of them are peaceful people. The radicals are estimated to be between 15 to 25%, according to all intelligence services around the world. That leaves 75% of them peaceful people. But when you look at 15 to 25% of the world Muslim population, you're looking at 180 million to 300 million people dedicated to the destruction of Western civilization. That is as big of the United States. So why should we worry about the radicals, 15 to 25%? Because it is the radicals that kill. Because it is the radicals that behead and massacre. When you look throughout history, when you look at all the lessons of history, most Germans were peaceful. Yet the Nazis drove the agenda. And as a result, 60 million people died. Almost 14 million in concentration camps. 6 million were Jews. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Russia, most Russians were peaceful as well. Yet the Russians were able to kill 20 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at China, for example, most Chinese were peaceful as well. Yet the Chinese were able to kill 70 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan prior to World War II, most Japanese were peaceful as well. Yet Japan was able to butcher its way across Southeast Asia, killing 12 million people, mostly killed with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. On September 11th in the United States, we had 2.3 million Arab Muslims living in the United States. It took 19 hijackers, 19 radicals to bring America down to its knees, destroy the World Trade Center, attack the Pentagon, and kill almost 3,000 Americans that day. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. So for all our powers of reasons and us talking about moderate and peaceful Muslims, I'm glad you're here. But where are the others speaking out? And since you are the only Muslim representative,